Charlie Kirk is dead. A question presses on us with brutal force. What next? Leaders now in place must remember, your job is not to become Charlie Kirk. Your job is to live out the idea. Hello and welcome to American Files. I am Chris Anu. September 10 is a date that will not be easily erased from memory. It was a day a voice that had come to mean so much to so many was cut down in mid-sentence. Charlie Kirk, the founder of Turning Point USA, a young man whose charisma, energy, and convictions made him a beacon for a generation, was assassinated while addressing an audience of some 3,000 students at Utah Valley University. The killer struck from a rooftop with the cool precision of a sniper, a single bullet to the neck, silencing a young man who had dedicated his life to raising his voice and the voices of others. Within hours, the hospital confirmed what many prayed would not be true. Charlie Kirk was dead. He was gone. The suddenness, the brutality, the public nature of it all, it has left many of us reeling. The human heart is not built for shocks like this. For people like us who never met Charlie Kirk, he still managed to feel like a friend. Through his podcasts, his media appearances, and his lectures on college campuses across America, he broke through the impersonal barrier of public life and settled into the intimacy of countless homes and hearts. Charlie always spoke with such a smile that could disarm hostility and a sincerity that could pierce cynicism. He became part of our families, part of our inner circle. To lose him feels not only like the silencing of a public figure, but the death of someone we knew, someone who sat across from us in our daily lives. The last time I remember feeling this way about someone I never met was when the radio titan Rush Limbaugh passed away. Rush had been diagnosed with lung cancer in January 2020, and he prepared his listeners with a rare honesty. I still recall when he came on air on February the 3rd, 1 month after the diagnosis, to break the news to his listeners that he had very little time to live. He was going to die. His voice, carrying that strange blend of courage and resignation of hope and realism, he let us know that time was running out. For 1 more year after that announcement, Rush Limbaugh lived and fought. For Rush, we knew the day of good night or good day was coming, and it was close. And why it struck like a hammer when he finally did, it was softened by the knowledge that he had already prepared our minds for it. We grieved, but it was a grief mixed with gratitude for the gift of time, for the chance to savour his final years with a heightened awareness. But Charlie Kirk's death, it is a grief of another order entirely. There was no preparation, no slow fading, and no announcement. Charlie was young, in his prime, filled with the fire of ideas, still brimming with dreams that stretched ahead of him. He had no time to give us a warning, no chance to say good night or goodbye. His wife, Erica, his 2 children, his family, his colleagues, none of them were given even a whisper of preparation. Charlie Kirk, ladies and gentlemen, was not taken by illness or age, but by violence. He was cut down. And because of that, the wound is sharp and raw, the sense of loss almost unbearable. To measure the loss is to recognize not only who Charlie was, but what he represented. He was more than a man. He was the living embodiment of a movement. We lost a voice who, even when facing hostile audiences or angry critics, refused to meet hatred with hatred. Charlie's debates were marked by a discipline that surprised both friend and foe. He smiled in the face of insult. He turned aside the temptation of rancor and chose instead to model civility. We lost a movement's figurehead, a young man, ladies and gentlemen, who had the audacity to start something at an age when most of his peers were still figuring out themselves. Turning Point USA, his brainchild, became a nationwide presence, with chapters on hundreds of campuses and a growing influence in Europe also. Charlie gave countless students permission to ask questions and to speak, to organize, to believe their ideas mattered. To many, Charlie was not just a leader, but a liberator of voices. We lost momentum in Charlie, books unwritten, debates unscheduled, plans left on desks and calendars, all of it interrupted. His tour was meant to be a rallying cry, but instead it became the stage of his assassination. His wife Erica has spoken with courage, promising that the movement will live on, it will not die, that the mission will not die. But honestly, the burden is now heavier and the road harder. Grief often makes us bold in our promises. When a leader dies, especially one cut down so cruelly, the immediate instinct is to declare that his memory will never fade, that his ideas will never be forgotten, that we will take up his mantle with renewed vigor. But history warns us otherwise. Too often time clouds the sharpness of grief. The speeches stop, the rallies shrink, social media moves on. A new scandal, a new outrage, a new distraction takes center stage. Public memory is fragile. Monuments are erected but ignored. Foundations are built but starved of energy. The world forgets and the departed rest, while their causes fade into the silence of neglect. That is the danger now. Charlie Kirk deserves better than to be remembered, ladies and gentlemen, only in hashtags and eulogies. He deserves better than to be a subject or the subject of 1 week or 2 weeks of headlines followed by years of quiet amnesia. If his ideas are not actively lived out, then they will rot in the grave with him. And so this question presses on us with brutal force. Now that Charlie is gone, what next? Turning Point USA must now prove that it was never just about Charlie Kirk. Yes, he was the founder, the voice and the face. But Turning Point was always meant to be larger than a single man. It was an idea of reclaiming the public square, of injecting sanity into socio-political debate, of giving young people a platform to speak for faith, to speak for freedom, and to speak for common sense. The custodians of that idea, ladies and gentlemen, are now the campus leaders, the chapter heads, the vision directors, the international affiliates. The responsibility lies with them to show that this was not a personality cult, but a movement rooted in conviction. The leaders now in place must remember, your job is not to become Charlie Kirk. Your job is to live out the idea he implanted in you. You are to defend truth with humility, to debate without demonization, to show courage in the crowded rooms, even when your voice shakes. Charlie Kirk mattered because he bridged divides. He stood at the intersection of faith and politics, tradition and youth, passion and civility. He showed that one could fight fiercely for beliefs without surrendering to hatred. He proved that one could smile in the face of insult, respond to rage with clarity, and debate to persuade rather than to destroy. He mattered. Charlie mattered, ladies and gentlemen, because he believed in young people. He believed that students often dismissed as apathetic or too easily swayed could be leaders in reclaiming culture. He believed that the public square could be redeemed, that politics could be debated without venom, that truth still had power. And for many of us who never met Charlie, he mattered because he felt close. Through his media presence, through the stories of those who knew him, through the hope he represented, he entered our lives and our hearts. We grieve him as though we knew him personally, because in some way we did. As Charlie Kirk is laid to rest, the temptation will be to focus on the ceremonies, the tributes, the monuments, the posthumous honors. But none of these things will keep his legacy alive. None. Zero. What will keep Charlie alive is not marble or gold, but the daily grinding work of carrying on his idea forward. To the Turning Point chapters across America, to the international affiliates, to the campus leaders and student bodies, the message is clear. Do not let his death be the moment his idea dies. Do not let grief make you sentimental but inactive. Do not let anger make you vengeful but unfaithful. Do not let distraction make you forgetful. The easy promises of funerals mean nothing if they are not lived out in the quiet seasons when no one is watching. Charlie Kirk's death was sudden, cruel, and undeserved, but his life was purposeful, radiant, and unfinished. The challenge before us is to finish what he began. If we succeed, then His assassination will not be the last word. The last word will be life, truth, and a movement that outlives his founder. If we fail, then his death will become just another headline. His name, just another forgotten story. So let us choose. Let us choose not to forget. Let us choose to carry forward the mission with integrity, with courage, and with humility. Let us choose to honor Charlie Kirk not with monuments of stone, but with monuments of action. Because when history remembers him, ladies and gentlemen, let it not be for how he died, but for what he lived for, and what we, in our own imperfect ways, choose to carry forward. If I were fortunate enough to be at his funeral to deliver a eulogy, this would be my message. This is the fire for you today. Thank you for watching.